أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين مؤمنين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So we started by discussing is khums wajib upon the wealth of non-baligh children, and in brief we said yes, the answer is yes. If a non-baligh child receives any gift or any more than a year, then khums is applicable on that wealth, but because it's a non-baligh child, the duty of removing that khums is with the guardian of the child, which in this case is the father or the grandfather. And in the case that they do not take care of this duty and they still there with him, then he will remove it himself. If that wealth is not there and the father or anyone has used it after khums had become wajib upon it, then the child has no other duty, but the father is still liable for that khums that he did not pay. That was the first discussion. The second discussion was about identifying your khums date, and we said that according to Atlas Sistani, there's a difference between a income, meaning the income for the year, covers at least 25% of their annual expenses for the year. And we said for such a person, for a working person, their khums date is the first day that they started working. And they can only keep one date, that's the day they started working, and all their incomes that they get throughout the year, they will calculate khums for it on that one specific date. As opposed to a non-working person, who we said that is defined as somebody whose annual income, but he wants to be very particular. The actual definition is that your annual income covers a good amount of your annual expenses. But because usually people, they get confused, like, okay, what is a good amount? Like, okay, I'm earning this much, my expenses are this much, does it cover or not? That's why I stuck to the example that he gave of 25%. But you don't have to be to the dot 25%. The criteria is that your annual income generally covers a good portion of your annual expenses, and therefore you are a working person. The second point is that from what I realized was that the most questions that were coming up were from people who thought that, okay, I'm a working person, but I thought that I can just pick any date that I want, and that's how I have been calculating. So just a reminder for that if you are a working person, your date is automatically set on the first day that you started working. But now if you're already used to, you've already picked some random date and you're used to it, then you just change your date. I explained how to change the date. Changing the date is the most easiest part. You can change your date, and once you change your date, you can stick to that date that you are used to. The only problem is for those people who don't remember when was the first day But if you do remember your date, then you can easily change your date. The point is that the date itself is not really the most important thing for the working and non-working person. Like I said, you can change your date. This differentiation will become much more apparent later on when we discuss deaths, where there are real ahkam differences between people who are working and not working. So we said the formula that we'll be going by is that, okay, on one's khums date, what the calculation is that you see all your incomes that you received throughout the year, minus all the expenses and all the things that you have used throughout the year. Whatever remains, you would have to pay khums on that. And so we discussed the khums date last week. So today we want to discuss this. What are these incomes that I keep getting throughout the year that are liable for khums? So generally speaking, the most common things that we have is, okay, I'm working, I have a salary every month, I get my salary. Okay, those are a type of income. I get gifts, for example. Those are also other types of incomes. So before we discuss some of the details about these incomes, I would like to specifically discuss some of the wealth that is actually exempt from khums. So generally speaking, between the fuqaha, there is a discussion about, okay, what is the subject matter of khums? The one opinion says it's al-mal al-muktasab, wealth that is gained through working. So specifically business, wages, only that is liable for khums. So currently, for example, Atla Khamenei or the late Imam Khomeini, they were of the opinion that, okay, whenever you work and you get something, okay, that wealth is what is liable for khums. Gifts or anything you get for free, khums is not wajib upon it. So for them, okay, this discussion doesn't even apply, because they've already said that khums is only wajib on things that you get through working. But other maraji like Atla Khoi, Atla Sistani, they say, no, actually, khums is applicable on every gain, anything that one gains, and therefore, they come and say, out of all this, that everything one gains, there are certain exceptions that khums is not wajib upon. The first thing is principal amount taken on a loan. So when somebody goes for a loan, any loan that may be, whether it's for your personal expense, whether it's for your business, the principal amount that is received as the loan, that money is exempt from khums. Even if somebody keeps it in their house, in their bank for 10 years, doesn't touch that money, that principal amount, khums is not wajib upon that. Specifically, the principal amount. Now, later on, we will discuss about paying back loans and all the details about loans. For now, all I'm saying is that the principal amount that one gets when he takes a loan, that principal amount is not liable for khums. The only specific amount that you would have to pay. So, the money that I pay the person, assuming I'm following the Sharia and he's not forgiving me, if he's forgiven me, then okay, there's nothing. If he's not forgiving me, say, no, you broke my hand, you have to pay me diyat. So the amount that the Sharia has stipulated, that amount if I give him, khums is exempt from him, he doesn't have to pay. But if I pay something extra on top of that, that extra amount would be liable for khums if it remains with him until the end of his khums year and he does not use it. The more practical and relevant discussion comes when it comes to insurance claims. The same discussion applies to cases where someone receives compensation from the insurance company on behalf of the one who injured him. So say, for example, I was driving and somebody, for example, came and crashed my car, through which I got injured. Now, it's their fault, so technically they have to pay me diyat, for example. Okay, I broke my arm, I had injuries, they had to pay me. So they said, okay, we're not paying anything, the insurance will handle everything. The insurance money that their insurance pays me now would be considered a form of diyat to the amount that is for my bodily injuries, as long as it is in line with how much the Sharia has mentioned. That money for me that the insurance company gives me is not khums liable, but if they pay extra from whatever calculations they use, then the extra amount would be liable for khums. The third thing is dowry and mahr. So the money that a wife receives upon marriage from her husband is exempt from khums. Whatever the stipulation was in the marriage, however much the mahr was, small, big, doesn't make a difference. As soon as the husband pays the wife that mahr, even if the wife keeps it, khums is exempt from it. The important thing to note over here, though, is that this rule only applies when the wife actually receives the mahr. If, for example, the husband says, okay, I've kept this mahr, for example, in my bank account for you, I'm saving it for you. No, that doesn't count as mahr. Mahr only happens when she actually receives it. So if the husband, for example, says, okay, my khums date is coming like in 2 weeks, I have to pay my wife mahr, for some reason I cannot give her right now, so this money I've kept it on the side. Okay, this is mahr money. No, this doesn't count. Until she finally gets it, that's for her now, that's the mahr. Me keeping it aside and saying, okay, this is for mahr, that doesn't count. So I would have to pay khums on this money. But the wife, when she receives the mahr, that money is exempt from khums, no matter how long she doesn't even use that money. The fourth one is money received by the husband from the wife in a khula divorce. So, for example, the wife really doesn't like the husband and she says, okay, I'm giving you this money and you give me talaq-e-khul. So the money now that the husband receives in a khula divorce, that money is also exempt from khums and the husband does not have to pay khums on that. What's important is, apart from loans, all these other items that we'll mention, if the person uses this money to buy something else, that other thing as well is exempt from khums. So say, for example, the wife received mahr of like, I don't know, $1,000, for example. So okay, there's no khums for this, even if she doesn't use it for 10 years. But what if she takes this mahr money and now buys something? So she goes and she buys, for example, a laptop. And say, for example, even she doesn't use it until her khums date. Even then, there is no khums on that laptop. His children are not alive, his siblings are not alive, but his siblings' children, which are me, I'm the only one alive. So for me, if I look at, for example, my cousin right now, I say, yeah, for example, his parents are alive, his children are alive, his siblings are alive. I'm thinking, there's no way. If he dies right now, I'm not going to get anything. There's so many people who are waiting to collect before it reaches me. But say, for example, this cousin goes with his family for a vacation, and they all die in a car accident. So all of them die, the parents, the children, the siblings, and now I'm the one next in line. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting this. So here, it's unexpected. Because in normal circumstances, I know I don't have a chance. There's so many people who have to get, if they are not alive, then I will receive. So for me, this is like an unexpected inheritance. That suddenly everyone who was supposed to get died, and suddenly it came to me. So this is an unexpected inheritance. So unexpected inheritance, Khums is liable upon it. But expected inheritance, meaning people you consider that, yeah, for example, if they die, most likely I'm going to get, for example, my parents, for example, children, for example, spouses. You know that, okay, if they die, I'm going to receive something. This is an expected inheritance, and there, Khums is exempt. However much I get, small or big, doesn't make a difference. Khums is exempt from expected inheritance. Specifically, Ayatollah Sistani says that even in expected inheritance, there is one tiny case, a very rare case, where it can happen, where even if it's unexpected, you would still be exempt from Khums, and that is in the case of father and son, where even unexpected inheritance is exempt from Khums. Now you might be wondering, okay, how can I, for example, not expect to receive from my father? So for example, I get a call from China today that, oh, actually this person died, and he was your real father. You used to think your father was here. Actually, your father was actually really in China, for example, and now he's left for you something. So here, this is an unexpected inheritance for me, because I thought my father was someone else. Turns out my father is in China. So here, it's unexpected, but it's because father and son relationship. So Ayatollah Sistani says, okay, even if it's father-son relationship, and it's unexpected, no khums on it. But that's a very rare case. So the general rule is that in normal circumstances, when you receive inheritance, it's not a case of randomly a whole group of family dying. Normal cases where you're expecting to receive, that wealth is exempt from khums. And like I said, even if you get that wealth and you buy something with it and you don't use that thing, again, same rule applies. Even that thing now is exempt from khums. The next one is money received by a poor person in the form of khums and wajib zakat. So if I am a mustahaq, for example, I'm a poor person, people are paying me their wajib zakat or their khums, for example, the money I receive, that's not liable for khums. The next one, wealth received as compensation for damage to one's property by others. So remember I said that if I harm someone, if I cause him bodily harm, I have to pay him diyat. Similarly, if I cause him harm to his property, we call it in fiqh dhiman. I'm a dhamin, I have to compensate him. So for example, I broke somebody's windscreen in the car park. I was playing football and I broke his windscreen, for example, and he didn't forgive me. So now technically I owe him, I harmed his property. Or for example, somebody said, oh, can you please take a photo for me? And I took his phone and then the phone slipped from my hand. So obviously I broke his phone screen. I have to compensate him. So wealth received as compensation for damage to one's property by others. If somebody else harms my property, and now they have to compensate me, that money that I get as compensation for that harm is not liable for khums. Reason being, because the riwayat say, al-khums fi kulli ma afad an-nas. This is not a faida again. In fact, like for example, somebody takes this laptop and throws it, and then they break it, and they're like, oh, sorry, here, I'll buy you a new laptop, take this. This wouldn't be considered as something new I have gained. It's just a replacement of what I originally had. So primarily speaking, if somebody damages my property, the other person damages my property, we're not talking about natural causes, for example, like my car was in the garage and something happened and my car, for example, caught fire. Nobody did anything. Over there, no, there's nothing. The point is, if somebody damages my property and they have to compensate me, then that money that I receive, again, is also not liable for khums. Same discussion about insurance also comes over here. If that person doesn't pay me, but his insurance company pays me, same ruling. So remember the example I gave? I was in a car crash. This guy came and smacked my car. It wasn't my fault, it was his fault. He came, he smacked my car. Okay, so now, technically, he has to compensate me for the damage he's done to my car. Either he does it, or on his behalf, his insurance company does it. Okay, so the insurance comes and pays me and says, okay, your car got messed up. Here, we're giving you, for example, this much amount of money as compensation for the damage. So an example that I gave over here is that, for example, Mr. Alif was involved in a car accident in which he was not at fault. The other party smashed his windscreen and their insurance company compensated Mr. Alif $500. Is this money liable for Khums? The answer, assuming the cost of repairing a windscreen is $500, then there is no Khums on this money, even if it is not used until the end of the year. The reason I wrote it this way is that if the company, for whatever reason, they give extra, so the amount to fix my car, or the amount that I've lost basically, is, let's say for example, 50,000 shillings to replace whatever is spoiled in my car, but the company says, okay, our policy is we are going to give you 100,000. So the 50,000, yes, there's no Khums on it. But that extra that they gave, the other 50,000, if I have not used it until the end of my Khums date, then I would have to pay Khums on it. The last one is assets bought using Muhammad's wealth. So when you say Muhammad's wealth, we mean wealth which we have already paid Khums on. So my Khums date came, I had some money, I paid Khums on it. Now this money, if I use it to buy anything, those items, I don't have to pay Khums on them, even if I don't use those items for years. So I had some money, for example, I paid Khums on it, then I went and I bought, let's say, a piece of land, for example. I bought a piece of land, I'm not using it, I'm not staying on it, it doesn't matter. Because it was bought using wealth that Khums was already paid upon, then I don't have to pay Khums on it again. The only discussion is, again, if there's an appreciation in the value of the land, which we will discuss later about how to calculate on appreciation. So these are things that are exempt from Khums. There's a bit of a more complicated example I want to give regarding inheritance, just so that we understand what's going on. The ruling was very simple. Okay, I inherit something, part of my inheritance, okay, I don't have to pay Khums on it. So consider the example of two brothers. So a person dies and he leaves two sons. Let's say they are the only ones receiving. This person who died had 2 apartments. But, so technically, how it would go is that each son would get half of the estate of the person who died. From the 2/3, each would get half equal. But say, for example, he left behind 2 apartments, but one apartment is more valuable than the other. They are not of equal value. So in this case, say, for example, apartment A is 1 million shillings more in terms of value than apartment B. So the brothers say, okay, technically we have to do half-half. So we can't just say you take one apartment, I take one apartment. Technically, if you take the more expensive apartment, I still have 500,000 worth is my right, because it's supposed to be exactly 50-50. So what they do is they say, okay, you take this apartment, I take this apartment, because my apartment is more valuable, it's 1 million shillings more valuable, for example, and you have to do half-half. So okay, I'll pay you 500,000 as cash. So the elder brother gives the younger brother 500,000 as cash, and he has that apartment. So over here, what are their Khums duties? For the youngest son, he doesn't have to pay Khums on his apartment, he got it as inheritance. And even that 500,000 that he got as cash, even that, there's no Khums on it, because that is also part of the inheritance. But the eldest son, he would consider that 500,000 as a gain, since that much value of the house was gained by buying it from the younger one and not part of his inheritance. So if, for example, the apartment is valued at 21 million, so here 20.5 million exactly is how much he gained by inheritance. The last 500,000 to make it 21 million that he gave, for example, to his other brother, that value of the house, technically, he's just bought it from the brother. So that 500,000 worth of the house would be applicable for Khums if, for example, let's say he's not living in that house. And then we'll discuss about appreciation and it'll become much clearer. The point is that that 500,000 would be considered as a gain for him. It's not something that he received through inheritance. The point is that that difference that he paid to his brother, he's actually buying his brother's portion of the house. So there it's not really something that he got through inheritance. So there are other things that are also liable for Khums that people generally tend to overlook, or it needs more clarification. The first one is that, as we will mention, that any money that you get throughout the year, you're allowed to spend halal way, whatever you want. And one of the halal ways is charity and donations. People, they want to give donations. Okay, use your money, give donations, and then whatever remains at the end, you pay khums. The discussion comes about that one of the conditions of sadaqah or charity is that it has to reach the poor person. So what about people at home? They say, okay, every day I'm removing sadaqah, but I don't want to go all the way outside and give the poor person. So now, every day I'm removing like 50 shillings, 100 shillings, I'm keeping it in the corner. I'm saying, okay, this is sadaqah, this is sadaqah. Technically speaking, this is not sadaqah. You've just kept it on the side. This on its own does not count as sadaqah. If you're just piling money on the side every day, 50, 100 shillings, this is sadaqah, that doesn't count as sadaqah. Fiqh-wise, that's not counted as sadaqah. So money that I set aside at home, and I say that, okay, this is for sadaqah, it's not really sadaqah. And so come my khums date, all that money that I had kept aside, and I've not yet given it to the poor person, that money would be liable for khums. The reason why this discussion comes up is in sadaqah, the way you look at the narration, they say that one of the conditions and shurut of sadaqah is what is known as qabd. In Arabic, qabd means to take something into your possession. So they say a sadaqah is not a sadaqah until the poor person actually gets it in his hand. So by me putting it at home, the ownership has not transferred, the poor person has not gotten anything, it's not considered as sadaqah. So now just in brackets over here, okay, now how do we solve this issue? If somebody says, okay, every day I have to go and find the poor person and give him, it's going to become difficult. What can I do over here? There are two solutions that you can use to make, number one, this actual sadaqah, and then you don't have to pay khums on it. So one is, for example, I know a poor person, I go to him and I tell him, look, every day it's difficult for me to come out of home and give you, so make me your wakil, make me your representative, let me collect sadaqah on your behalf. And he says, okay. So now, if I am the wakil of a poor person, then I can collect sadaqah on his behalf. So now at home, I'm saying, okay, I'm removing sadaqah, this money is for that person who I'm the wakil of, that poor person. So one is, okay, I go, I get wikala, I get agency, I'm now the representative or the wakil of that poor person, and I say, okay, he's given permission, so I can do that for him. So if I have permission, fine. Then that money is considered sadaqah, and it's not liable for khums. The second one is, I get permission from the marja or his wakil. So basically, the marja or the hakim al-shar is considered the wali of all the fuqara. So he has authority to determine for the fuqara. So I can go, for example, to the marja and say, okay, it's difficult for me to give the poor person every day. Give me permission that I accept, that you give me permission that I can do sadaqah like this. And then once it piles up, for example, then I'll give it. If he gives you permission, then okay, now instead of getting permission from the poor person, you have gotten permission from the marja himself. And so nowadays, many of these organizations that accept sadaqah, they put it up over there and they say, look, you know what, we have permission from the marja. So if you give it to us, or for example, we're giving you this box, we have taken permission. So if you put in this box, for example, it is like you have already given the poor person, and so all the ahkam of sadaqah would apply. Famously in Iraq, the Al-Ain Foundation is known that, for example, Ayatollah Sistani has given them permission to accept on behalf of the poor people. So the point is that either I get permission from the poor person or from the wali of the poor people, which is the hakim or the marja, or I give, for example, these kind of organizations that already have such kind of permission. And for example, if they gave me, let's say, a box and they say, okay, you put your sadaqah money in this box, we have permission, then okay, that money I've spent it now, basically, khums is not liable on it. But if it's just at home, I put my money myself on the side like that, without getting anyone's permission, then no, that money is liable for khums on my khums date, because it's not reached the poor person. The second one is about money given as upkeep or nafaqah to one's wife and children if in the form of permission to use or agency. What do I mean over here? So basically, how most houses work is that, okay, the father is earning, he gives, for example, money to the children for their pocket money. He gives, for example, money to his wife. They say, okay, use this for the groceries and the running of the house. So now when he's giving this money to the wife or to the child, there are two scenarios. Either he's making them the owner and he's saying, look, this money is yours now. Okay, use it for the groceries, whatever remains, it's yours, you do whatever you want with it. If that's what's happening, either with the child or with the wife or with anyone, that he's giving them ownership and said, this money is yours. You keep it, you use it in the house, use it for your own expenses, do whatever you want with it. So if that's the case, then okay, this wife, for example, that money is hers, for example, okay, if it remains until her khums date, she's not used it, she has to pay khums on it. The second case is that, no, he's not saying, I'm giving you the money. He's just saying, look, this money is here, it has to be used for the house expenses. You are going to go to Carrefour, Naivas, use this money, for example, for all the house groceries. Here, he is not making her the owner of the money. Same with, for example, the kids. Either he can tell them that, look, I'm giving you pocket money every day for your lunch in school, go buy lunch, you don't want to buy lunch, you want to save it for yourself, buy something else, it's up to you, it's your money. Or sometimes he can say, no, I'm giving you the money, but use it for this, and if you don't use it, then it's mine. I'm not giving you ownership, give it back to me. So somebody, for example, asked me that, okay, I'm a student, and my dad, for example, every month, he gives me a monthly stipend for all my expenses. So, okay, the question is, okay, this is the father, when he gives you this money, is he saying, okay, it's yours, do whatever with it? If it is, then okay, that's your money, on your khums date, you would pay khums on it. Your father, it's gone, the money is gone for him. But no, he was like, no, my father is saying that, okay, use this for your expenses, then whatever remains, you don't use, you give it back to me. So clearly that means that he's not giving me ownership. He's not saying this money is yours. He's just saying, use it for all these expenses, whatever remains, give it back to me. If this money that the father is giving to the wife or to the children is of the second type, where he's not making them the owner, he's just saying you use for the expenses of the house, for example. This money would be liable for khums on the father or the husband when his khums date comes. So say, for example, he keeps this money every day in some special drawer, and he tells the wife that, okay, every month, Naiva's kharcha is from here. So now come his khums date, he'll have to see, okay, how much is left in that drawer, for example, because he's not given ownership to the wife. That money still belongs to him. So on his khums date, whatever is left and has not been used will be liable for khums. The third thing is money received in lieu of unused leave days. So many companies have this. They say that, okay, you work for us, and throughout the year, for example, you are allowed 21 leave days, for example, or 28 leave days, whatever the policy is. So the person comes to the company and says, okay, this year I didn't take a leave, and I want you to, instead of ignoring those leave days, give me money instead of those leave days. So primarily, yes, okay, the company agrees, we'll give you money instead of the leave days. That money is also liable for khums. If you don't use it until your khums date, then you pay khums on it. But the more technical thing comes up is that, what if they give me that money after my khums date for leave days for the previous year? So say, for example, my khums date is 1st January. So 1st January to 1st January, that's my khums year, for example. Now on, let's say, 31st December, I go to them and I say, look, it's the end of the year, for example, and I have 5 days unused leave days, give me money for it. They say, okay, fine, we'll give you. We'll process it with accounts. Then they end up delaying and they give me on 15th January. So now, on 1st of January, if I had that money, I would have paid khums on it. So come 15th January, in this case, as soon as I receive that money, I would pay khums on it immediately. Why? Because this is money for the previous year, for my previous khums year, that on my khums date, I had not yet got that money. They owed me, and they said, okay, we'll give you, but this is for leave days for the previous year. And so, therefore, I would pay, on this specifically, I would pay khums immediately. Not that I'll wait until 1st January next year. If it remains, then I pay khums on it. Most cases, what happens is that, okay, you say, okay, give me my leave days, and they give you immediately, and then you keep it with you, either you use it, or if you don't use it until your khums date, then you pay on your khums date. That's the general, usual scenario. This scenario I'm saying is a bit more complicated, where they're giving you the money for your leave days after your khums date, but these leave days were for the previous year. They just took, for example, delay in accounting and all, but this money was technically was for last year, and that's why you pay khums on it immediately as soon as you receive it. Number 4, money received in exchange for blood and other organs. If anyone is on the organ market and they want to sell their organs, so okay, fine, you sell your organs, you sell blood, that money that you get, technically khums is liable for it. If it remains until your khums date, then you pay khums on it. Last one is digital currencies as well. Same ruling applies. For example, I have M-Pesa on my phone. okay, it's there on my Khums date, I've not used it, I have to pay Khums on it. Same with, for example, phone credit or any other kind of like credits or digital monies that I have, Khums would be liable upon it. Also, petrol remaining in the car. Now, this one technically I should have brought it in the future discussions when we discuss about when I buy something as an expense, like a perfume or a food, for example, and there's something left over, then you have to pay Khums on the leftover with some discussions. So that's why I'm not discussing the petrol right now. It should be brought over there. The point is, digital money, M-Pesa, credit would also be considered liable for Khums. And so therefore, if somebody has that on their Khums date, then they would have to pay Khums on it, assuming these things were not bought with wealth that was already paid Khums on. Remember, I said that if you paid Khums on your wealth and then you use that wealth to buy anything, then those things are exempt from Khums. So these things that I'm mentioning is like fresh income that you're getting, and you have not paid Khums on it, and then your Khums date comes, then you pay Khums on it. Now comes a very controversial discussion, because what I'm going to say is very counterintuitive. We do not operate like this, but if you allow me to explain the basis behind this. Remember, I said that for sadaqah, one of the conditions is qabd. The poor person has to get it for himself. The same ruling also applies to gifts. If I want to gift someone, for example, I tell someone, okay, it's Eid, for example, I've kept a gift for you. Even in gifts, qabd is a condition. For ownership to transfer, that person actually has to receive it. So say, for example, I tell my friend that, okay, it's Eid al-Gadir, I've kept a new phone for you as a gift. You're not coming to mosque. Okay, I've given, for example, Sajid uncle. When you come to mosque, pick it from him. As long as my friend doesn't actually pick up the phone, the ownership has not transferred. Whether, for example, I keep it with myself, whether I keep it somewhere in the mosque and I say, okay, pick it from here, doesn't matter. As long as it's not reached him until he's finally like picked it up and it's come into his possession, ownership does not transfer. So, for example, I bought a phone as a gift, and I told my friend, oh, okay, you didn't come to mosque. Okay, I've kept it, for example, in Jamaat office. Make sure you pick it from there. My Khums date came, and it's still stuck in Jamaat office. This friend of mine has not picked up the phone. So technically over here, ownership has not yet transferred. It's not yet really counted as a gift until he goes and picks it. Now, if I know that, okay, this phone is still there in Jamaat office, it's my Khums date, I would have to pay Khums on it because it's not been used and it's not been gifted to anyone yet. The gift only happens when he actually gets it in his hand. So until here, all the Maraji accept, it's, no discussion. The point comes that, okay, what about bank transfers? Is a bank transfer considered as qabd? For example, I tell him, okay, I'm giving you a gift of 5,000. I'm doing a bank transfer from my bank to your bank, or through M-Pesa or any of these virtual means. Here, most of the Maraji, for example, like Atla Khamenei, they say, yeah, it doesn't make a difference. Whether you give cash, whether you do digital, doesn't make a difference. It's all the same. You've transferred to his account. Okay, finished. You've given the gift. He's received it. And now you don't have to pay Khums on that. Atla Sistani and Atla Khui say, no, bank transfer is not a form of qabd. And so, just because you transferred to his account doesn't mean that he is now the owner of that money. This is why I said it's going to be very counterintuitive, because the way we work nowadays, as soon as somebody transfers to my account, I consider myself the owner of that amount. Somebody sends to my M-Pesa, for example, I consider, okay, I've received this money, I'm the owner of this money. So now people will be questioning, okay, what is this? This seems so like archaic. What do you mean bank transfer doesn't count as a, coming to my ownership? Of course, it's coming to my account. My phone shows it. This is how much money I have. The reason why they have this whole discussion is that how does a marja look at the banking system? What exactly is happening behind the banking system? If you ask a normal person, they would say, you know what happens in a bank is that I go and I give them my money and they are safeguarding it for me as an amanat. And then when I want it back, I go and get my amanat back. That's the general layperson's understanding of how a bank works. That a bank, all it's doing is keeping an amanat for you. It's like a safety box, for example, that they're keeping for you. And then you go whenever you want, you take it back from them. The Maraji said, no, actually, that's not really what's happening over here. Why? They say, first of all, when you give someone an amanat, they cannot use it, number one. And number two, when they give it back to you, they have to give you that same thing. They can't give you something else. But they say, come over here, what are you doing in a bank? You go with these notes of yours, you have like 5 notes of 1,000, I go and give it to them. First of all, they are going to take that money and they will use it for their own purposes. So firstly, it's not an amanat, they're using that money. Secondly, when you go and get that money back, you are not getting those same exact notes. They will give you a different notes. So they're just protecting the value of what you gave them. So they say, okay, clearly it's not the case of you are giving them an amanat and then taking your amanat back. They say what's happening in a bank is you are actually giving the bank a loan. When you go and deposit money, you are giving the bank a loan. And you're telling them, look, I'm giving this money as a loan. For example, I'm depositing $10,000, even though you don't say I'm giving you a loan. But the reality is that you are giving the bank a loan. And say, okay, look, I'm giving you this money. You do whatever you want with it. Okay, when I demand it, you have to pay me back. So when you go back and you say, okay, give me back my money, they give it back to you. So briefly speaking, when they look at the banking system, they say the whole banking system of you depositing and withdrawing money is basically you giving the bank a loan and the bank paying back the loan. And when you give someone a loan, they can use that money. They don't have to give you the exact same thing back. So they say, look, this is how the banking system works. So now the question comes that, okay, when, for example, somebody transfers me some money digitally, and it comes in my phone that, okay, INM Bank, you have received 10,000 shillings from Fulan Fulan. We are saying, oh yes, see, I got it, it's my money now, I own it. But what Atlas Sistani is saying is, no, actually, this is just a few numbers on a screen. This, all it shows is that the bank owes you this money. This is like an IOU note. The bank is telling you that, look, your account says 10,000 shillings, you don't really own 10,000 right now. We owe you 10,000. When you come to us, okay, we'll give it to you. And the thing that would make this more palatable or acceptable to us is that, say for example, my account shows 100,000 shillings. And then tomorrow, it comes in news headlines that, okay, INM Bank has closed down. Would I be like chill, like, yeah, it's there in my account, my money is safe, I don't have anything, okay, the bank closed down, my money is there, I own that money. Or you'd be like, oh no, the bank is closed down, what will happen to my money? Clearly, that means that we are seeing the bank as they owe us. This money that shows in my account just means that the bank owes me this money. So based on that, very simply, what Atlas Sistani is saying that when somebody does a bank transfer from one account to the other person, what's happening is now the bank owes you that money. So I gifted that money to someone. Until and unless they don't actually withdraw that money physically as cash, they are not the owners of that money. The bank only owes them that money. And so a bank transfer is not considered a form of qabd. And so what this means is that if somebody gifts me an amount and it's sitting in my bank account, I have not removed it, I have not bought anything with it, it's sitting there, even if it was to sit there for 10 years, no khums is wajib upon it. Because I have not yet owned that money. Only when I go, for example, and I withdraw that cash, okay, now I own this money, and if it remains with me till my khums date, then I would have to pay khums on it. If I use it, then I use it. This specifically for gifts. It does not apply to wages and salary, because somebody says, okay, every month I'm getting salary in my bank account. You're saying I don't own that money. It's like, no, hang on. Salary and wages, there is no condition of qabd in salary and wages. What does that mean? Meaning, fiqhi-wise, as soon as I do the work that I was tasked, so say for example, I work for a company, today I went there, I worked, as soon as I do the work, I already own that money as a debt upon the shoulder of the company. Sure, I don't have cash, they've not sent me anything, but this is a debt that they owe me. So part of the things that I now own is the physical cash that I have, and also this debt that this company owes me, because I've already done the work for them. So the corollary over here is that, say for example, Mr. Alif's khums date is on 15th January. He receives his salary of $3,000 at the end of every month. What is his khums responsibility in this regard? So at the end of the month, for example, he gets $3,000. For the sake of calculation, we're saying every day he's working. So 30 days, $3,000, every day he's getting $100 for every day of work. So he receives his salary every day at the end of the at every end of the month. Come 15th of January, he's not received anything. But based on this explanation, technically he has worked for 15 days already, so he owns $1,500 as a debt upon the shoulders of the company. Okay, so now come his Khums date, he's counting, he's calculating his money that he has, his assets that he has. He says, okay, right now, this company owes me $1,500 worth of work. 15 days I've worked, they owe me this much. Is Khums wajib upon me? So we say, okay, for such a person, for debts that people owe you, we ask them, okay, on your Khums date, is it possible for you to go and get that money? Like, for example, if you go to your boss and you say, for example, hypothetically, you say, okay, I want my salary of like 15 days right now. Is it possible for you to access that money? If he says, no, it's not possible, they say, oh, you know what, it's our policy, end of month you come, we'll give you over there. So, okay, it's a debt, I cannot access that money. So when I access that money, I would pay Khums on it immediately for those 15 days. Remember, his Khums date is on 15th January. So on 15th January, he already owns $1,500. We're saying, okay, you can't access it right now through the company, it's a debt, fine. When you get it, you pay Khums on it immediately for that 1,500. Not that I wait until the end of the next Khums year for me to see what's left over, then I pay on it. No, you pay that 1,500, you pay Khums on it immediately. Because it's a debt that, okay, you could not access on your Khums date. You should have, technically, you should have paid on your Khums date. If he could have accessed it, and he's like, you know what, yeah, if I go to the boss and I tell him, for example, okay, I want my 1,500, he'll give it to me. Even though he doesn't actually go, he knows I can potentially access it. If he knows I can access it, then okay, that's it. This is considered a gain, this 1,500, you pay Khums on it right now on your Khums date. If you can't access it, then okay, when you get it, then you pay Khums on it immediately. So the point was that, okay, qabd is a condition for gifts, and a bank transfer per Ayat al-Sistani is that, okay, it's not enough, it's not considered a form of qabd, and so if somebody transfers to my account, I don't have to pay Khums on it, even if it stays in my account. Only when I withdraw, now I'm the owner of that money, and I can use it, and if I don't use it until my Khums date, then I would pay Khums on it then. Or, instead of withdrawing, I take my card, for example, and I buy something. I take a debit card, for example, and I buy something with that money, then okay, that item now, I'm the owner of that item. If I don't use it until my Khums date, then I would have to pay Khums of that item. Now, what about the person who's actually giving the gift? If we're saying that the receiver, he's not considered the owner of that money until he withdraws. But what about me, the sender? So now the money is technically still in my possession. If I know about it, that okay, this person, for example, he's not yet withdrawn it, it's with him. So technically, I am the owner of that money, even though it's in his account. Okay, so he's saying, oh, it's in his account, but I have to pay Khums on it on my Khums date. Technically, yes, but for practical purposes, you would never end up paying Khums on it. Why? Because if you cannot access that money, you cannot, for example, bring it back to you, or it's too difficult, or for example, if you go and keep asking everyone that, okay, I sent you that money, can you please give it back to me? It's going to diminish my status in society, for example, I'm going to look bad. Okay, in all these cases, you are exempt. Okay, you don't have to pay Khums on it. Okay, that money is now considered, for example, hanging in mid-air just for practical purposes. So the person who is giving the money, okay, if he knows that, okay, I can easily access it back, this guy has not removed it, fine, then you would have to pay Khums on it. But most of the times it is not like this. So neither Khums is wajib upon me, who's the giver, and neither Khums is wajib upon him, who is the receiver, until he actually withdraws the money. Now this is important because when we discuss about pensions, this will come over there as well. That there are certain parts of the pension that, okay, let it be in your bank. Every month you remove a portion to use for your expenses. It's fine, you don't have to remove the whole amount. I removed, for example, I received for my pension, for example, $5,000. Okay, this month my expenses is $500. I just removed 500, spent it, okay, that's it. And so this discussion will come more over there. But for gifts and even insurance payouts, for example, same principle applies, that a bank transfer is not considered a form of qabd. In terms of checks and gift cards, it's also the same thing. Somebody, for example, writes me a check. It says, okay, here, this is a check of 100,000 shillings. Wages is separate. Remember, wages is different. This does not apply to wages. We're saying just gifts, for example. Somebody gives me a gift of a check of 100,000 shillings. I still have the check in my hand. This Khums is not applicable over here until I go and cash it in. The only exception to this bank transfer is that if somebody instead of wiring me the money directly, what they do is they take that money physically and then they deposit it into my account. Here, I would be considered the owner of that money. Why? Because When I am opening a bank account, I am giving the bank staff or whoever they are permission to accept money on my behalf. And so when somebody comes and physically deposits cash into my account, then no, that I am the owner of that money, and if it stays until my Khums date, then I would have to pay Khums on it. Now the discussion that I wanted to start over here was appreciation in the value of an asset. Because we're running out of time, so I'll just do the first two, which are the least common, and then the most common, inshallah, for the next session. So we said, for example, okay, I have an item, for example, I have used it, for example, or for example, I bought it using wealth that is muhammas, meaning I've paid khums upon it, and we said, okay, there is no khums on this. Whatever you buy with that money, you received through inheritance, for example, okay, there's no khums on it. But when the value of that item increases and there is an appreciation of that asset, now there is a discussion to be had. Is there khums upon the appreciation? There are three ways that this appreciation can happen. The third and the most common way is that the price of the value or the price of the item increases, which is the most detailed, which we'll discuss inshallah in the next section. The first two ways are, number one, attached increase, ziyada muttasila. So basically this is where I have an item and literally that item is growing. So say for example, somebody has some animals he keeps at home, for example, goats, sheep, whatever, or for example, he has some crops, and now the animal, for example, grows fatter, or the crops are growing big. He has a tree, for example, and now the tree grows big, and it has, for example, more branches. So here the actual item is increasing in size. If the item is not intended for trade, meaning by trade I mean buying and selling. I have not kept that item, for example, that goat or that sheep or that plant, for me to sell it later on. It's just for example, for my personal use. Then, okay, there is no khums on the appreciation of that asset or the increase in the size of the asset. But if the item is intended for trade, and urf, meaning society, considers the increase in weight or size as an increase in wealth, then khums would be applicable on the appreciation. An example is, for example, I am rearing chickens at home, for example, and I want to sell their meat, not their eggs. I'm rearing chickens to sell their meat, and now, for example, the chickens grow fat. So this increase, for example, would be considered an appreciation that is liable for khums. An example that people don't consider to be an increase in wealth is if someone is rearing chickens to sell their eggs and not their meat, and even if the chicken grows fat, I'm not increasing anything. The reason why I'm speeding through this is because this part doesn't apply to most people, so unless you have a specific question, that's why I'm not stopping over here. The second one is detached increase, ziyada munfasila. So here, the item itself is not increasing in size, but there are things that are coming out of the item. So I have some chicken, for example, it's giving eggs. The chicken is not growing fat, the chicken is giving eggs. Or for example, I have a cow, and the cow is giving milk, for example. Again, these are examples that don't really apply to us. The one that does apply to us is if, for example, I have a property. I bought, for example, an apartment, and now I am gaining rent from that apartment. So rent from a property is considered a detached increase. And here, very simply, khums is applicable if it has value. For example, I'm getting rent, actually rent has value, and I have not used it by the end of the year. So for example, I have an apartment I put on rent. As long as there's no one staying there, okay, there's nothing. But now somebody came to stay there, and now every month I'm receiving rent. So okay, this is one of those incomes. We don't call it appreciation, but fiqhi-wise you would call it a ziyada munfasila, and so that rent is an income for me. If I don't use it until my khums date, then I would have to pay khums on that rent. And the third one is increase in market value only, and this is the most relevant to all of us, which we will inshallah discuss next time, is increase in the value of a piece of land. For example, I have shares, the price of the shares are going up. I have gold and silver, for example, their value is going up. That has the most details, which we will inshallah discuss in the next session. And so now we will open the floor to questions.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So, dowry is non-applicable to Khums,
Yeah.
but suppose life goes on and I have to invest in my office or I have to purchase a property,
Yeah.
first property of the family. And if I ask Madam to give me that money to buy that property, to help,
Yeah.
so how does that change now to Khums applicable?
So if she is giving you ownership and say, okay, this is yours now, for example, okay, you go and buy the house, then okay, that's an income for you now, and technically Khums would be liable upon it. But if she says, no, actually, I want to help you in, for example, buying the house. So you are pitching in, for example, around 10 million, I am pitching in my mahar amount. So I'm not giving you, you're not the owner of this mahar. It's still mine, I'm using it to buy, for example, this house. Then that proportion of the mahar that's being put over there would not be liable for Khums. Assuming, for example, this house is, for example, for, let's say, investment. Because if it's for for your staying, then okay, there's no Khums on that house because it's for your personal usage. Let's say, for example, it's for investment, then you would have to pay Khums on your amount. She would not have to pay because she's just using her mahar. Yeah, question here?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So you mentioned the money in the bank that
Yeah.
is not from your wages,
Yeah.
and if you have savings, and then you also received a gift,
Yeah.
all of those are with the bank.
Yeah.
But if you put it, so that is not taxable for Khums, you say.
The money that you received as gift, yes.
Yes.
And you didn't actually go and deposit it. It's not
Yeah.
like somebody gave me a gift and I went and deposited it. No,
It was
it's
a wire transfer,
yes.
bank to bank.
Yeah.
And then you had some original savings,
Yeah.
and then you put it into a fixed deposit and it grew.
Yeah.
So what happens to that interest that we received?
Yeah.
Is that taxable for Khums?
Depending on the proportion that was relevant to the savings amount,
Okay.
not the gift amount. Yes.
Not the gift amount.
No.
But the savings amount that received interest,
Yeah.
that is taxable for Khums.
Yes. So we will discuss more about this in the next session about increase and appreciation in value as well. So this whole fixed deposit will come in more detail over there.
Okay.
So I don't want to answer properly right now. It might
Yes.
just confuse everyone. So I'll discuss that properly in the next section.
No problem. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, I just have two questions.
Yeah.
The first one is there are a lot of technicalities which we have seen right now, and probably a lot more.
Yeah.
Now, if you've probably become eligible to pay Khums, and it's been quite some time, and obviously you'll continue paying Khums, what's the most practical way to keep track of everything, and to probably backtrack in case you may have missed something, or do you give it the benefit of the doubt?
So a lot of that is relevant to Shakiyat of Khums. That's going to come towards the end of the whole discussion about doubts related to Khums. So we'll discuss that over there. But in terms of calculations, if you wait for the next few sessions, things might become a bit more clear. Where I'll discuss how to calculate the Khums and take care of, as well as money that you paid Khums on before. You don't have to pay on it again. So hopefully by the end of these discussions it would be clear.
Okay, and then another question. You mentioned that if somebody sends a bank wire transfer,
Yeah.
it's just written like in a computer that the money is yours,
Yeah.
but it's actually a loan.
Per Atlas Isani, yes.
Yeah. But then if, for example, I deposit into someone else's account,
Yeah.
I don't know if I got it wrong, but
So
it
you
still
took
falls.
that money and you put it to someone else's account.
Yeah.
Yeah, same
But
thing.
for the bank,
Yeah.
they owe me still. Like if it's under my account and
No, that
someone
money-
deposits it.
Yeah, no, but so somebody sent me 10,000, then I sent 10,000 to someone else, you're
No,
saying,
no.
right?
So for example, you deposit 10,000 in my account cash,
Okay, yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And that account is under my name.
Yes, so you
So
have
to
pay
the
Khums on it.
bank,
Yes.
it's we owe Ali
Yeah.
Khalfan 10,000.
Yes. So the reasoning behind this hukum, why this is a different ruling, is that what Atlas Sani is saying is that when you went to open an account in the bank, you are giving the bank wikala, an agency, to say that okay, if somebody deposits money into my account, you can accept on my behalf. So the bank is the wakil on your behalf. So when somebody physically deposits cash into your account, they have already accepted on your behalf, so you are the owner of that money. The same ruling does not apply if somebody wire transfers it to your account.
Okay, so but in both scenarios, I've given the bank the wakala to collect the money on my behalf. So
Yeah.
the difference is just wire transfer is not,
Yeah.
and physical cash deposit is.
Yes, because in a wire transfer, they have not collected anything. They have not actually accepted money from anyone. All they're saying is that, okay, this money has come from this account to this account. Okay, now we owe this person this much. That's all that's happening. His understanding of how banking works is saying that's all that the bank sees. When the bank sees these numbers, they say, okay, we owe Ali Khalfan, for example, this much amount. That's it.
Okay, then there's a question that was sent. Can I read it out for you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I bought an item and haven't used it at all, and somebody else borrows it and uses it. And when they return it, it is still, I don't use it for a year. Yeah. Is Khums still due on it, as I didn't use it myself, but somebody else did? So technically it's not used by me.
So this discussion will also come about what counts as usage or not usage. So the details will come over there. So I'll just leave it for there. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So I'm a student, and I took a student loan, and I came back, and I finished my studies, and now I'm paying back my loan. I'm working. My income does not cover 25% of my expenses, however, I'm paying my loan. I started working. I'm a working person. Say 5 years later, I finish paying my loan. What is my home state?
Your home state is that when you start working, you're saying you're not, it's not covering your annual income is not covering your expenses, right?
So let's say I studied for 4 years.
Okay.
And then I started working.
Yeah.
Okay? While I was working, I was earning an income.
Yeah.
And I was a working person through your definition.
Yes. Okay.
But my annual expenses were not 25%. It was a bit higher. So my income was not covering 25% of my expenses.
Okay. So you're not a working person then.
Sorry, I'm not a working person.
Yeah.
Now I'm still working, and it's been 5 years, and I've completed paying my loan.
Yeah.
So now what is my home state?
The same day that you started working. As soon as you,
First day I started working.
yes, unless you want to change it, but yes, as soon as now your situation has changed such that your annual income is now covering a good portion of your expenses, like 25%, then you are technically now considered a working person. And so as soon as that definition applies to you, the first day that you started working, that is your home state. If you wish, you can change it to any date that you want for ease of calculation. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I remember around few years ago, I don't know if I'm correct or no, there was such hope through our Sistani that any money going to the bank to be deposited for savings or any reason, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, that this money is not the same money as we are going to get back. It is like a loan that bank is using for its own.
Yeah.
And I remember such a hope that any money, if it is going to bank and you are not sure that this money is going to be mixed with other monies as non-paid homes, and then it is mixing, even if it is not more than 1 year, there is homes on that. I don't know if it is correct or I'm misunderstanding of this hope.
I'm not sure I understand your question. You're saying that, okay, I went and I deposited in the bank,
Yes.
and I don't know what they're going to do with that money.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's mixed, for example, with like haram money. Okay, and then?
Or non-paid homes.
Yeah, that's
it's
fine.
mixed, yeah.
So I already own this money right now.
Yeah.
So this much amount, even when I deposited it, I'm still the owner of it. So
Yeah.
in my account, when it shows me, for example, you deposited, for example, 10,000 shillings, I am the owner of that 10,000.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the bank does with it. So on my home state, if I have not used that money, I would have to pay homes on it.
No, before my home state, if I want to use,
Yeah.
should I pay homes or no?
No, it's fine. You can use the way you want. No problem.
Even if it is, I am believing that money is mixed with non-paid homes.
There's no such thing. What the bank does now with your money, that specific note of yours, for example, what they do with it, that's not up to you. Like, that's not relevant to you. You can spend the money the way you want.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Yeah.
So my question is for the leave days, just a bit of clarification.
Yeah.
So what if you have something like you're on 28th of December, that's your home state, 28th December. You have 4 days of loan left, 4 days of leave left,
Okay.
and you know that you can't like get your 4 days of leave right now, but on 31st you'll get, but you know you have 2 days of leave that you'll get at 31st. Do you pay khums on those 2 days of leave that you?
So you're saying, first of all, this whole thing of leave days is only like when you go and tell them I'm cashing it in, for example, that, okay, give me money now. So that's when this whole discussion will start.
Okay.
Before that, I don't really own anything. Until I go to them and I say, for example, okay, these many leave days, for example, give me cash instead of thing, or whatever their policy is.
Okay.
So what you're saying is that your home state is 28th December.
Yes.
And then on 31st December, you will go to them and say, okay, I had 4 days left, for example, now
Yes.
give me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the money that they're giving you, if it's meant for the leave days before your home state, then that's a income that was for the previous year, you pay homes on it immediately. But if, for example, let's say you go to them on like your work calendar, for example, the leave days are to be used by, for example, 10th January.
Okay.
So now you go to them on 10th January, say, look, this year finished, I didn't use my days, give me the money. So here, this would be a new thing, you pay homes on it in the next year. It's not that these days are for before that 28th December that was your home state.
All right. Even if you had more than, for example, you could or not cash it in, you know that you'll have the, if you have like 20 days of leave days and you know that on that day, you know you've already earned those 10 days. Does that make sense? What if it's on the 31st? Like on the 1st of Jan,
Yeah.
you have like, let's say you have 20 leave days left.
Okay.
And on 1st of Jan, and on 28th of December, you still have the 20.
Yeah.
So at max, you can use 2. For the 3rd, 29th, you can use 3,
Yeah.
perhaps. So you know on 28th, you still have 17 days of leave that is yours.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't want to give you an answer from my pocket, so I'll have to like look into that.
Okay.
I don't want to guess. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
And
Any?
sorry, one more
Yeah,
question.
sure.
When you give when you become the example of the one that you set aside money, right? For the poor, like you set aside, you become the wakil of a poor person.
Yeah, if you have gotten permission for them.
From them.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have to give that money to him? Because
Because if I specifically got wikala from him, this is his money. I cannot give it to someone else. I have to give it to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't change your mind and
No.
give it to someone else. Okay.
Yeah. So there is a question over here that, okay, female, I earn salary, I want to save because someday I want to go for further studies. I want to save for rainy day. Okay, so questions about future expenses and saving for future expenses will be coming up in the later sessions, so I'll discuss that more over there. And then, okay. So if somebody is not dependent on anyone financially, then in terms of what we've discussed until now, whether you're working or non-working, you say, okay, I don't depend on anyone financially. This is how much I earn throughout the year. These are my expenses. If my income covers a significant amount of my expenses, like 25%, then I'm a working person. If not, I'm a non-working person. Yeah, so I believe that's it. Any other questions?
متوجه زيارة. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا مولاي أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب. السلام عليك يا مولاتي يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله الحسين سيد الشهداء. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا محمد الباقر. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا جعفر الصادق. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا موسى الكاظم. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا علي الرضا. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا محمد الجواد. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا علي الهادي. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا حسن العسكري. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسحل الله مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.